Hi there, and welcome to my small YouTube channel. I'm a very old artist now, 85 years old. And I've lived a life that has sort of been on the edge, and by that I mean it could have gone in any direction at any time, and it did. I was in my early 40s, had pretty much lost everything: family, graphic art business, home, and properties. Let's just say on paper I was worth almost $900,000. Almost a millionaire. Between the bank, mortgage companies, and credit cards, even though I started with nothing, I was drowning in debt, and no one was tossing me a life preserver. I can honestly say that burning the candles at both ends, working hard and playing hard, eventually means getting burnt. Which is what happened to me. Too much booze and wild women have been the destruction of many a man, and being a somewhat flaky artist didn't help either. Many a person would have been depressed at digging themselves into a big hole, but I wasn't. Losing money wasn't a big deal, because money has no feelings, but the loss of my family did hurt. So with those feelings in mind, like anyone, a horde of creditors on my heels, I made a run for it. Well, actually, I set sail for calmer seas, and that little brush made it all possible. I painted a mural and lettered over 100 signs for the annual open house at the Pacific Biological Station in Nanaimo. It was enough money to buy a sailboat, Dreamer 2, which I had to put in my brother's name because of my debts. I had thoughts of sailing off and anchoring in a quiet bay where no one could find me, except I didn't know how to sail. Looking back, I sometimes wonder why I bought a 42-foot ketch with a cement hull when there was nothing concrete happening in my life. But it was one of the best choices I ever made. I eventually learned to sail and lived aboard Dreamer for almost 25 years before remarrying at age 66. As unbelievable as it sounds, at age 50, when I was still a young man, I actually sailed the Northwest Passage with a couple of friends, Winston Bushnell, the skipper, and George Hone, the first mate, aboard Dove 3, perhaps the smallest sailboat to ever sail the Northwest Passage. Upon returning, an art gallery wanted to exhibit my pen and ink sketches and referred to me as an adventure artist. I'll most likely create another YouTube post later regarding the voyage and show you many of the sketches I drew. Luckily, I'm a very versatile artist, can paint almost anything, and am able to letter beautiful signs. So with a mitt full of brushes, tins of one-shot enamel, tubes of acrylic paint, and my smallest studio ever, about 3 foot by 6 foot in size, I was able to earn a living. I painted several murals, and I have no idea how many signs I lettered. Even drew a ton of portraits at the Nanaimo ferry terminal for a few summers, and can actually say lots of my artwork is hung all over the world. And of course I lettered many boats, from fancy yachts to fishing boats, even small dinghies. Because the size of my studio was limiting, my paintings were mostly very small. I have no idea how many I produced in my boat and sold on eBay, but they helped pay the bills. Like living at the racetrack, working as a groom for 10 years during my late teens and early 20s, the boat life was somewhat similar, in that a certain camaraderie existed. Although now landlocked, anchored on 50 acres of semi-wilderness land for the past 15 years, where often bear, moose, deer, and other forest creatures come right by the house, the scent of horses and the sea is like the nectar of the gods to me. I don't know about you, but my art, like the stories I write, once they are completed, I don't have much interest in them. Not at all. To me, it's the ideas and the creating of it all that turns me on. If a blank piece of paper and pencil are lying on a table, like a magnet, I'm drawn to them, and before long, the paper is covered in some sort of doodle or words. I remember years ago, when strip bars first came into existence, a friend of mine and I were sitting at Gynecology Row, where everything is in full view. I mean everything. Instead of watching the stripper, I was drawing on beer coasters until I realized she had stopped dancing and twirling around on the brass pole and was standing over me. She picked up all the coasters, and as she looked at them, tossed them towards the spectators, like frisbees. I have no idea how many coasters I doodled on, or placemats in restaurants, but it was one heck of a load. And to this day, I still draw on them. Frequent a Chinese restaurant in those days, and while waiting for the food to arrive, I drew on the placemats. One day when I came in, the owner was all smiles and invited me into the kitchen. On one of the walls, he had tacked up all those placemats. I should also mention that cancer did a real job on me several years ago. And even though I was barely walking for the first year, I spent much of my time on a bed in the kitchen because it was warm, I still managed to produce a 2-foot by 3-foot painting for my caretaker, a birthday gift for her husband. Because I had cataracts on both eyes, I had to have my face almost touching the canvas while I painted a train coming out of a tunnel and crossing over a trestle. Also, because I had a touch of chemo brain, I started making dough art, something I hadn't done since the kids were very young. I made beads, which was very therapeutic, especially through the difficult times, because it took my mind off of the seriousness of it all, especially when there were nights when I wondered if I was going to wake up in the morning. I still have times like that when I start feeling really crappy, but a bottle of beer and a gummy usually help, and at least if I die, I'll die happy. I like my beer and gummies. Even now, at this late age, I still get commissioned to paint someone's portrait, or a landscape, nude, or whatever. I may talk about painting portraits in a later post, because that is a skill in itself. I produced lots of portraits using pencils, pen and ink, and acrylics, and discovered that most of them had a very sentimental value to the people commissioning them. It's odd, but I've never really been interested in exhibiting my art, and I don't know why that is. Perhaps it's because I lack the motivation of putting myself out there personally, or I'm just not the salesman type. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the ramblings of this old man and viewing some of the artwork I've produced over all these years. And if you would like to hear and see more, please like, turn on your notifications, and subscribe to my small YouTube channel.